you guys. And I hope that this last session of the day will be something that you can glean from, but I also hope it's something that really encourages your heart. I don't know if you're feeling a little down today, if you're feeling a little stressed today, maybe you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed with life today. I get it, and I know that life is hard, and we're trying to balance so many things in our life. And so I titled this The Greater Calling of Serving Others, and what that looks like, especially when we're in this healthcare field. What are we doing with this career that we have that can be stressful and can cause us to feel sometimes anxious and discontent? All of those things are just a part of life. And so I hope that today will be informative as we talk about the landscape of healthcare, but I also hope that it will encourage you as we look at ways that we can really find joy in our life, in ways that maybe we can take a closer look at ourselves inside our heart, inside our spirit, and maybe we can dig a little deeper and get a different perspective today. So our learning objectives are, we're going to look at the current landscape of healthcare. We're going to look at the roles that healthcare professionals play in serving others. And we're going to look at the characteristics of having resiliency in healthcare and what that looks like. So let me start by this. I love this analogy and this picture, because I can say for me, this is ashamedly can be true. That how we typically act in public is like this little guy. How many of you know the little dinosaur guy from Toy Story? You can let me know in the chat. I would love, love, love for you to chat along the way. Lisa is monitoring our chats, and so we will stop along the way, and I'll give her a chance to read some of the chats that you plug in. I'd love to make this as interactive as we can, but let me know in the chat box if you know this guy. I think probably most of us do know this guy, and we remember him from Toy Story, very upbeat, very just happy with life. And he worries too, but he runs around and he's happy. And this is how we like to present ourselves in public, or if we are with some friends that we have, or maybe we're in a community setting like church or an organizational setting, we are positive and upbeat. But then at home, when we get home, this can be how we act. Can anybody relate to this? I don't know why it is that we often give the worst of who we are to the people that we love the most. We often give the best of who we are away to other people. And so when we get home and we're with the people that we love most, we can be grumpy and frustrated and complaining. Can anybody just say, let's just have some confession and say, yeah, I get that. So why is that? What makes our mood different? Well, here's some things I came up with, at least that I think about for me. Number one, I can just have a negative attitude. Sometimes my attitude is just not in the right place. Sometimes there are hurtful experiences that I've had with someone that I love, and I'm lashing back out at that person. Sometimes I'm worried. And when I'm worried and I feel anxiety, sometimes that makes the worst of me come out, because I have this underlying stress and worry that's just covering my thought life, kind of like a dark cloud following me around. Sometimes, and I think this one is probably top at my list, I can feel overwhelmed. How many of you feel overwhelmed sometimes? You feel overwhelmed with the responsibilities that you have at work, that you have at home. Maybe if you have kids or grandkids, you feel responsibility there. Maybe just taking care of your home. I mean, literally 5 minutes before we went live, my daughter, who is 2 hours away at college, is driving her car home, and her car just stopped at a stoplight and it won't go. So I'm thinking about that right now, just feeling overwhelmed. She's 2 hours away. So my husband is on the case and he's going to go help her. But this is life. Life is not super smooth. We have responsibilities. We want to be people who meet those responsibilities. Sometimes we have unmet expectations by other people. They let us down. I mean, can you think about that? Can you think about people in your life that you love and they've let you down? They've not been all that you wanted them to be. They didn't do what you thought they should do. They weren't dependable. They really broke your heart in a certain way. And sometimes it's our hormones. Now, I love that, because for women, I love this little cartoon. you see the little colonels saying, what is a hot flash, right? And so you think about sometimes our hormones get the best of us. Hey, listen, the guys are not left out of this because sometimes the men are channeling their inner Clint Eastwood. Do you remember this? Get off my lawn, right? Just in a bad mood, or things are just not going our way. And I just want us to think this afternoon about real life. What are you facing in your real life? What is practical for you today? And I hope that this will be an encouragement, because I think most of us would say that we want to be joyful. Would you say that about yourself? And I want to be joyful. I want to feel joyful, but there's not like a button on my body that I can just push that says, okay, feel joyful. We want to feel joyful, but unfortunately, sometimes this depicts how we feel. We want to, but we just can't get there. I love that. That was a Christmas card that I saw on Pinterest. And I thought that was just so true of how we often feel. I want you to think through this question, and I'd love for you to do some chatting over in the chat box. What are 10 things that make you feel stressed? So I know that Lisa will help us along the way and share a few things on what is it that makes us feel stressed. So Lisa, if you have anything that anybody is chatting in, let us know.
We're getting some responses. My staff, bills, kids, parents, too much work, money, deadlines and not being on time. Same work, family, money, others' expectations, what to make for supper, health of parents, needing more staff, being pulled in too many directions, and time management. So lots and lots of a lot of the same things.
Okay, yeah, I think we can all relate to all of those that are being shared. So the things that make you most stressed, because life is hard. I mean, bottom line, life is hard. Now, life is also full of blessings and opportunities, but we can't deny that life is hard. I mean, we don't have easy roads. None of us do. Some of you are balancing not only having kids still at home or maybe in college, but you also have parents who are not doing well. And so you've got two different huge areas of life pulling you. Plus you have your work life and maybe a marriage or things at home that you have to take care of. So we know that life is hard, but it's also full of blessings, and stress is real. Here are some things that I categorized as things that cause stress. Now, stress is not all bad, right? Stress is actually good for us. Our body can handle stress. God designed our bodies to handle stress, but things that can sometimes give us a little too much stress, relationships, finances, our emotions. Sometimes we get our feelings hurt. Sometimes people do things that make us feel either inferior, or we feel rejected, or we don't feel that we belong, those types of things. We can have past experiences that cause stress. Our self-image. How many of you in the morning when you look in the mirror, how many of you say to yourself, wow, man, I am nearly perfect. Just look at me. I bet nobody's thinking that. We're zooming in on what we don't like. If we've got a new wrinkle, or we've gained some weight, or we're not as muscular as we want to be, or we wish that we were taller or shorter, or whatever it is, we typically are our worst own enemy, and we zoom in on the negative things, and then our self-talk starts spewing out negativity, and it makes us feel stressed because we wish that we looked a different way. Sometimes we have health challenges. I don't know if you've ever had a serious health challenge in your life, but if you have, you know what that feels like, where you don't have the normal energy that you want to have. Maybe you've had to go through some type of a treatment plan and your body just doesn't bounce back. So those are things that bring real stress into our life. When you look at some of the research and some of the data that's in the literature, the 5 most stressful things in life are. Does anybody want to take a guess in the chat box? What do you think the 5 most stressful things in life are for people?
We've got answers coming in. Death of a loved one, money. That's a big one. Work. Let's see. A new job, or just job in general.
Okay. Yep. Those are all good. Here are the ones. Moving. Say moving.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Relationships, family. Yeah.
Here are the 5 most stressful life occurrences in life: death of a loved one, divorce, moving, a major illness or injury, and then losing your job. So you guys really hit a lot of those, thinking about money, thinking about relationships. These are the 5 most stressful things that happen in the average person's life. And can you think about a time where you've experienced some of these, or maybe you've experienced multiple of these at the same time? Maybe you've lost your job and you've had to move because of that. Maybe you've had someone in your life who died, and then maybe at the same time you got divorced. Who knows? I mean, we know that life is stressful, and these are the most stressful things according to experts. Now let's don't leave out work. So we can have burnout at work. So that means that you've had long-term stress. And what this leads to is emotional exhaustion. Now, I don't know if you feel this way, but I have been working now. I got my first job as a pharmacist in 1998. It's a long time as working in the field of pharmacy. When I think about work, early on, I used to think that I wasn't allowed to bring my emotions to work. Like emotions had to be kind of in this bucket over here, and then work had to be in this bucket. And I didn't need to bring that emotional stuff with me to work. But then after I got into the workplace and I worked as a practicing pharmacist for 7 or so years, I realized you can't just check your emotions at the door, right? I mean, if you feel a certain way, you feel a certain way. We have to learn how to manage those feelings. But I think it's interesting that one of the key definitions of burnout in the workplace is emotional exhaustion. It just shows us that we were created to be emotional beings. We were created to feel. And I think it's good for us to remember it is okay for you to feel. It's okay. The feelings are just feelings. We have to be careful that we don't give our feelings the driver's seat of our life. We have to learn how to manage our feelings. But I think long gone are the days of, oh, well, you have to keep it all together and you have to be always positive and upbeat and like a little Toy Story dinosaur, because that's just not real life. And one of the key symptoms of burnout is feeling exhausted emotionally. You can also feel disengaged with people. You're just kind of over it. You want to care, and you know that deep down you do care, but on the surface, you just don't want to be close to anybody. Because then if you're close to somebody, that just brings with it more responsibility and more expectation. And when we feel so burned out, we don't want one more thing added to our plate. We are maxed out. You know the expression, the straw that broke the camel's back? I get that, don't you? More and more responsibilities that you have. If you're like the camel, the little pieces of straw are dropping on your back for you to carry it. One more straw, you feel like you're just going to break. I get that. So depersonalization is a part of this burnout epidemic that we're seeing. Not feeling like you're doing a good job. Lack of personal accomplishment is another symptom of being burnout. I think it's good for us to remember that life really is short, and it's too short for us to be miserable. So we have to think about that. But how do we handle and manage our feelings, manage the burnout that we feel, manage the stress when we're being stretched too thin? And what about this guy? Like, what about when you're feeling like you're being stretched in a way that you can't go? Like it's not working for you, just like this poor guy. He's trying to stretch and his body's just too long and he's not bendable enough and he's frustrated. And I wonder if you've been stretched and been forced to stretch in a way that's not working. I think about COVID and I think about just all the hundreds of pharmacy preceptors that I work with in my job. We have over 900 pharmacists across the state of North Carolina and beyond who have precepted our students. And I see this emotional exhaustion in this landscape of healthcare. I see them feeling stretched in ways that it's just not working for them. I see them wanting to quit. I see them not wanting to take students. It sometimes becomes too much. I wanted to show you this because this brings me a lot of encouragement and I can relate to this. And I wonder if this will encourage you too. In the sub-Saharan African countries, many of the families there have to travel 30 minutes on foot to go and get their water from this well. So the wells aren't just right there in everybody's community. A lot of people have to walk 30 minutes to go get this water in a bucket, in a container, and then bring it back. And most of those collectors of the water are women. And this is such a staggering statistic to me. 13.5 million women are responsible for the water collection trips that take 30 minutes or longer. Now just imagine what that would do to our life. We just turn the faucet on, right? And we take those things for granted because that's just our normal life and we just expect it to be there. Well, these women have to do all this working every day just to have clean water. And the weight of that water container is 40 pounds. And this is a real picture of one of the women. This is the water container. So every morning she gets up with her other girlfriends. They travel 30 minutes on foot to put the water in this. It weighs 40 pounds and they carry it back on their head. And here's what I want you to see. Just because she can carry it well, it doesn't mean it's not heavy for her to carry. And just take that in a minute. Just because you and I can carry it well and we look like the Toy Story dinosaur, doesn't mean that it's not heavy. And I just want us to feel some affirmation this afternoon that we carry heavy loads. It doesn't look like this lady's load. Ours looks maybe more like this, and we look on social media and everybody's got this perfect life supposedly, but nobody really does. But we carry a heavy load, emotionally, mentally, financially, relationally. We're human, we're flawed. We want to pour into other people and even at our jobs, right? When you're working as a nurse or a pharmacist or an administrator, you want to pour into your team and your staff, the people that work with you, or maybe they're under your supervision. You want to pour into your patients. But at the same time, you also need to be filled up. You can't give away what you don't have to give away. So you've got to be in some type of a habit of filling yourself up so that then you can pour it out. And I think part of burnout is we're not filling ourselves up. We're not taking the time that we need to rest and recuperate, to find that joy in our life. We're just trudging through to try to get to the other side. And I think what we've all felt in COVID is, are we ever going to get there? I mean, is there an end in sight? Are we ever going to get back to having a better work-life balance? Those are things I'm thinking about. We don't want to feel overwhelmed. Nobody says, hey, sign me up for overwhelmness. I want to feel that way. We do want to be filled with joy and happiness and patience and gentleness and love. And we want it to be genuine. We can fake it. We can come to work and we can go to our community events. We can go to church. We can go to the neighborhood pool party and we can put on that good face. But then when we get home, we feel like that T-Rex and we're just running, because we have to get out the way that we feel. We can't keep it bottled up. But how in the world can we cross over? I want us to kind of take a deeper look at some things this afternoon. Let's remember that healthcare workers are suffering burnout. And the thing about the healthcare environment is we are less likely to receive and seek out the help that we need. We are in a field where we had to work hard to get our degrees. We have to work hard at our jobs. We deal with people when they're not at their best. We have to bill insurance and deal with the bureaucracy of all those types of things. And so we have to be tough in what we do. And so sometimes we're not very likely to get the help that we need. We can feel emotionally worn out. We can feel drained because our stress is accumulating. We can feel we don't have any control over what happens in our life. I know I can show up to work and I love my job. My job is stressful. And I'm in charge of over 30% of our curriculum because I'm in charge of every clinical rotation that our students have. And every student has 11 rotations. We have 4 classes of students, and there are about 60 students per class. It's a lot of rotations. And I'm dealing with hospitals who say we can't take students, graduation's on the line. And I come into my office and I never know what little fire is brewing that's going to take 3 or 4 hours for me to put out and to work through and to make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. And I know in your work, you have those same types of things. Small little emergencies pop up and you're out of control of the things that happen. Sometimes you feel stuck in a certain situation or you feel trapped. Sometimes you don't feel like you have the energy you need, you're not sleeping well, you may not have the motivation that you want to have. And it's important to acknowledge that when we're in a chronic stressed out state, it does affect our health. It does affect every facet of our life. When we feel through this burnout that we don't connect with people, we can feel detached from them. We can treat them with an impersonal type response. We just can't add that to our list of things, or we can't add one more thing to our responsibilities. Sometimes that causes a buffer in our work life because people can sense that maybe we don't care, or they think we don't care, even though we're really just suffering some burnout. Sometimes we wonder if we're doing a good job. We can have a negative self-assessment. We can feel sometimes like we're not succeeding at work and maybe that we're failing. Well, some of the responsibilities that you and I have as we're working in healthcare, we have some major responsibilities. And I think what happens to us is the stresses of life can cloud our vision. Our perspective gets twisted a little bit. It gets jaded a little bit. We have a hard time picking ourselves back up and getting ourselves back on track. And I want us to be reminded today that our jobs and responsibilities are to help people. You know, when I interviewed for pharmacy school, that was one of the first things they asked me, why do you want to be a pharmacist? And it's a question that we ask our students. I've been at 3 new schools of pharmacy. I've interviewed a lot of students. And most students will say, because I want to help other people. Now, I do want to help people, and I know you do too. But I wonder if because of all the stress and because of the work demands, have you lost a little bit of your love in that area? Is it harder for you to really feel it? You want to feel it, but maybe you don't really feel as much like you want to help people because all of the red tape and all of the things and the responsibilities that are resting on your shoulders. We want to use our medical knowledge, our skills, our resources. We want to take care of other people. That's a responsibility that we have, is to love and care for our patients. And in doing that, we need to be people who are kind. We need to be people who are patient. We want to make sure that we're serving others, and that really serving others is a call on our life, not just a decision that we make. It's a calling on our life. It's a higher calling to serve others with compassion and not just thinking with our head, but thinking with our heart. Now, I love that phrase. Sometimes we have to really think on things with our heart. We have to think about these patients that we're preparing medicine for. What if this is somebody's grandmother? This is somebody's wife. This is somebody's aunt. We have to put our heart back into what we're doing if we really want to have the joy and the fulfillment in our job that maybe we once did. If we want to have resiliency, pull out of the burnout, it really starts with thinking with our hearts. Now, don't misunderstand this, because this is very true. Thinking with your heart is risky because it's putting yourself out there. But what greater calling could there be? Nothing worth doing is ever going to be easy, or everybody would do it, right? So we are in a profession of healthcare that if we want to really do our best and make that difference, starts with thinking with our heart. We're in the business of service. And I try to remind my students of that because I feel like many times, even in this generation of students, I sense more entitlement with what's in it for me? What are you going to do for me? I'm paying for this. You should give me exactly what I've asked for because I'm paying for this. But it feels like the culture that we're in is more of it's all about me and what's in it for me. And it's hard to change the perspective of students to see that no. Actually, you're in the business of serving others. It's not really about you. It's about your patients. It's about a calling in your life to go into healthcare, to love other people, to care for them, to put your heart on the line, to be an advocate for them, to take care of them, even when it's super busy for you and it might not be convenient for you. It's a tough business, this business of service. We live in a hurting world, and I know for me as a pharmacist, when I was practicing, I would see people at their worst. They were coming out of the hospital. They were sick with a bacterial infection. They had sadness, depression, anxiety. Many of them were really overcome with fear. Fear of what's going to happen to a loved one, fear of what's going to happen to their health and their lifestyle. And people can be demanding. They can be impatient. They can be unkind. And they can feel entitled. And all of that happens. I can't tell you how many times I was standing between a person and the medicine that they wanted. And they were cussing me out, threatening to call the board of pharmacy. I had more than one person say, I'm going to take your license, little girl. That type of thing. They don't understand their insurance plan. They don't know why the copay went up. They're blaming me. I get all of that. But you know what we really want to be able to do is even when people are grumpy and angry, if we can get our perspective right, we can change how we're thinking about it. We can love them and care for them through it. We really can. But it takes some hard work on our part. How can we find joy when our jobs feel so hard? That's a key question for us. I think it starts with your heart, and it really lands with your perspective. Your perspective on life changes everything. Everything. Almost any person that I know that has been on a mission trip, who's been to a third world country, they come back changed. They did great work for whatever organization. Maybe it was like a Christian organization that they went on a medical mission trip for. Maybe it was just a community organization that they went to dig wells or do whatever. But most people that I know, they come back changed because they see how other people live. And they say things like, gosh, all I have to do is just turn on the faucet. Like I get frustrated when the hot water takes forever to turn on. And I'm going over there and they can't even find clean drinking water. See, your perspective changes. You really see how fortunate and how blessed you are when you experience another culture like that. So much I think of what we need to be resilient in our jobs, and so much of what we need to really find joy is a change of perspective. Let me go way back for you. So this is my husband and me. We met when I was 14. He was 16. I couldn't even do a car date with him. We could just house date. We didn't really start car dating till I was almost 16. But we dated for 8 years and then we got married. And so this is one of our prom pictures. Look at that. It's our prom ticket. Look, 1990. But I show you this because I want you to go back and think about it. I was 16 right there. What were some of your dreams when you were 16? Think about them. Did you have I know for the ladies on today, did you ever write down your baby names? I found a Bible that I had when I was a teenager. I found it, I don't know, a couple years ago, and in it was a piece of paper folded up and it had baby names in it. I'd already been thinking, what am I going to name my children? Well, you know, when you're 16, you just think that everything you want is going to come to you. You don't think about maybe not being able to have children, or what if I don't get married, or what if I end up divorced, or what if I have a serious accident and something happens to me, right? Those are not the things you're thinking about at 16. You're thinking about health and wealth and a perfect life and the picket fence and the dog and all of that. And life when we're 16, it felt full of opportunity. At least it did for me. I felt like there was so much in life that I wanted to achieve and do. But life goes by fast, doesn't it? And before you know it, today is my 26th wedding anniversary. So this is my husband and me 26 years ago today at our wedding. It was 90 degrees that day as we got married. Boy, a lot has changed, right? From here we are last fall. A lot has changed in our life. And so much of the in-between space on this slide, it's a lot of heartache. There's a lot of joy. There's a lot of happiness. There's a lot of heartache. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of sadness. There's a lot of heartbrokenness, right? Mixed in with all the good things too. But our perspective is so important. And just like as a pharmacist, you know, how many pills have I counted in my career? And if you're working in healthcare as a nurse, you know, you've worked with medicine and you're counting things and you're calculating things, and numbers are so important to us in this world of science. We're using numbers and we're counting things. I love that. I love this verse in Psalms that says, teach us to number our days, we may gain a heart of wisdom. Teach us to number our days, to realize that we only have a short time, and in our life, we really do want to make it count. When I lived in Tennessee for a short time, and I hosted a little radio show on Fridays, and I had the provost of our university come in, and I interviewed her on air, live radio interview. And she's just one of those people that is an achiever. She'd been married for 40 years, had 2 wonderful sons, and was the provost of the university. And just one of those people that always looked put together. And I asked her, what's your secret? Like, I want to be like you. What's your secret? And she gave me a few things, that she believed in, and some deep convictions of hers. But one thing she said that really struck me, she said, Joy, I try to live my life with no regret. She said, I don't mean like skydiving and like the Tim McGraw song. She said, I mean, I want to live in the moment. Like, I don't want to have something happen to me and I'm getting ready to die, and I ever look back and say, boy, I really messed up with my kids. I mean, I didn't take that vacation because I was too afraid to ask off from work. Or my husband and I didn't celebrate that anniversary because I just didn't want to go pay the money to go out to eat. She said, I try to live with no regret. And I thought that was so powerful, that in the moment, we need to think about the memory that we're making, and we want to make it count. Now, listen, it doesn't mean that we don't have emotions and we don't get frustrated and we don't make mistakes. I mean, goodness, how many times have I yelled at my kids, and have I done things I regretted? But all in all, with a perspective of, let's live this life, this short life, with no regret. Let's take the leap. Let's do the thing that we want to try to do to make the memory, within reasonable bounds. I mean, we can't all afford to go to Hawaii for our anniversaries every year, but the point is, so many times we just toss things to the side because we're too busy. Oh, I've got too much to do. I've got to clean the house, whatever it is. As we are numbers oriented in healthcare, let us be numbers oriented in our life to make it count. So I wonder today if you do feel a little bit burned out. Do you feel tired, overwhelmed, maybe frustrated? Some of these things on this slide. Maybe you are ready to throw in the towel, but I love this sign that says, I was going to throw it in the towel, but then I remembered how much laundry I already have. Amen. Amen. We feel like that. It really is for us about our perspective. Happiness and joy depend on your perspective. So what do you think this is right here? Let's do a little chat. What do you think this is in this slide? Let's see, Lisa, let me know what you're getting if people are chatting in about what this picture is.
Aerial view of a boat.
Okay.
A boat. Yep. Most people are saying boat or a submarine.
Okay. So if you see a yacht at sea, then you're in desperate need of a vacation, because that is a hole in a leather submarine. Okay. Yes, we need a vacation, right? Our perspective is so important. So as you think through this question today, I want you to purposefully think about 10 things that you are grateful for. And so I want you just to chat a few of those to Lisa. We talked at the beginning of our time about the things that caused us stress. So we were really quick to list those out. So now let's flip our perspective. Let's think about the things that we're grateful for. So Lisa, you let me know what you're getting.
Health, good health, job, family, friends, animals. Again, job that I love. Somebody said we can choose how to react in God's grace to help us control our emotional response. Somebody said the beach.
Oh, okay.
So yes, lots of family, green grass, summer's coming. And somebody said this moment.
Oh, love that. It's great. Well, let me give you just a few things. On the radio, I'm kind of known as Dr. Joy. That's what it's Joy Time with Dr. Joy. So I'm going to give you just a few tips that I have found in my life for finding joy when life is hard, and for finding joy when you feel burned out, and for finding joy when life feels overwhelming. So number one for me is my faith. my faith in God, because my faith brings to me a greater sense of purpose in life and meaning in life and hope in life. That my faith carries me through the low periods and it helps me be elevated in the higher ones. It helps me connect to God and to connect with Him through a relationship. I'm a Christian and I love the Lord and try to live my life to serve Him. And through that, there's prayer, which is essential in my life, and surrender. And the other thing about faith for me is I walk in an assurance that God is working all things together for something good in my life, even the hard things. It doesn't mean that everything that happens to me is good, because some things have happened to me that have been bad. But it means He can even take those bad things and He can work them for a greater and good purpose in my life. And that brings me a lot of perseverance. And it helps me to keep going when life really feels unbearable. Another tip for finding joy is we need to nurture our relationships. We need to nurture our relationships. That when you look at the studies of what makes people have healthy and happy lives, it is overwhelmingly evident that healthy relationships are at the top of that list. Interaction with people that help bring you joy. Now, sometimes there are people in your life that bring out the worst in you. And I mean, sometimes you have those relationships too. But we need to nurture our relationships and work on them. If you have a spouse, you have a good close friend, if you have any children, your parents, your siblings, people in your community, it needs to be at the top of our list. There's nothing that brings more joy to your heart than serving other people and nurturing those relationships. Being kind always. You can be angry and still speak with kindness. You can speak the truth, but you can do it in love. To be quick to forgive. I learned this lesson years and years ago, that there is no time machine. And I don't know if you've ever had someone who's really done something that hurt you. Maybe it's through a divorce. Maybe it's something with a parent. Maybe it's an accident that happened that changed your life forever in a negative way. I learned this a long time ago, that when I hold on to unforgiveness, all it does for me is make me bitter and miserable. But when I choose to forgive someone, even if they don't ask me, even if they never come to me and apologize, when I release them in my heart, who I'm really releasing is me. I heard a pastor say once, and it really stuck with me. He said, the reason that we hold on to unforgiveness, the reason we won't let it go, is because we feel that someone robbed us of something. They took something from us. That 16-year-old dream that we had when we were 16, maybe this person stole something away from us. They robbed us. The pastor said, there is no time machine. Even if that person that you're having a hard time forgiving came to you, fell at your feet, groveling, saying, oh, please forgive me. I wish I wouldn't have done that to you. Oh, I wish I could go back and undo it. Oh, I'm so sorry. Even if they said that, there is no time machine to go back and undo and give you back what you feel that person took from you. And at that time, I was having a lot of trouble forgiving someone really close to me. And when I heard him say that, it changed me like instantly. I thought, all I'm doing by holding on to this unforgiveness is causing bitterness in my own heart. And I began to pray about it, and I began to find ways to forgive that person and move forward with that person in a new reset type of relationship. And I just want to encourage you, there is no time machine. You can't go back and undo it. So think from here forward, try to make the most of that relationship from this point forward. I just love that advice. Another tip for finding joy is to remember that you are human. You're not going to live forever. We're not guaranteed to live until we're 95. We really do just get one chance at being on this side of heaven. And so we need to think about what really matters. And maybe it means we've got to make some changes in our lives. Maybe it means we need to recognize all those little straws that are dropping on the camel's back. And we need to think about, all right, how can I offset some of this? For a while, I was feeling so overwhelmed with my ministry and with my job and with my kids and with my home. And I talked to my husband. I was like, we need to get a house cleaner because I was just feeling too many responsibilities that I could not do any of them well. So we looked at our, we don't have like a strict budget, but we just kind of looked at the money coming in every month, and we decided, hey, I think we're going to get somebody to come in once a month and help us clean the house. And that just took so much off of my plate, and Brian's too. I mean, he's helpful around the house. He does a ton of stuff. So, we made a conscious decision to try to offload some of that. So maybe it's going to mean that you need to think about ways that you can know your limits, take a little time off, figure out how you can recharge your batteries. It's okay. Sometimes somebody asks you to do something, to say, no, thank you. I'm sorry, I can't make it. Sometimes there's so many demands put on us by other people, and we go and we do because we feel like we have to. And sometimes in the spirit of life-work balance, we have to say, I would really love to, but I'm just so sorry I can't. It can be difficult, but it can be so important for us to have that emotional health, not to feel so burned out. Another tip is to be generous. Be a generous person. Think about ways that you can give to other people. Maybe it's financially, but maybe it's with your words. Maybe it's getting into a habit of sending a card to some friends once a month. Like you just put it over somewhere on your desk or somewhere where you see your note cards every day, and you set an appointment. On the 20th of the month, I'm going to send 3 cards to 3 friends. I just want to send them a word of encouragement. Maybe it's with your time. Maybe you can give some time to be generous. Maybe it is with your money. Generosity is one of the key things that you can do in your life to decrease worry and anxiety. Did you know that? Medical studies prove it. Being a generous person helps you be less anxious, less stressed, and less worried. And be a person that gives more than you take. You let somebody borrow something, don't get upset if they don't give it back. If you lend somebody $7 for lunch, don't even ask for it back. I've learned that when I give, and I give more, it always ends up coming back to me anyway. So remember that and be a person who's generous. Try to stay calm. Do what you need to do to blow off steam, right? Jog, walk, shop, whatever it is. Maybe it's singing. Maybe it's working in your yard as a gardening. Maybe you love gardening. Whatever it is, try to blow off your steam and get out your frustrations. But in your day-to-day, try to be a person who stays calm. When you have a reason to panic, tell yourself, I'm not going to panic. Your body will listen to your brain. So if you consciously take that inner voice and you say, I'm not going to panic. I'm not going to panic. I'm not going to overreact. I know that I'm having a bad day, but a bad day does not equal a bad life. I'm going to breathe. I'll do some deep breathing. A lot of studies show the benefits of deep breathing in releasing stress, like consciously taking some time to deep breathe and do those exercises. Believe with your mind and your heart that you'll get through it. Don't tell yourself things like, I'm never going to make it. I'm just never going to make it. This is going to kill me. He is going to kill me. I am so sick of this. Don't do that. Don't give life to those negativity thoughts that you have. But instead, change that perspective, change your mindset, and say, I'm going to get through this. I'm strong. I can do it. God's going to help me. Remember that life is a marathon. It's not a sprint. You're going to have some times when you fall down. You're going to have some times when you fail, but that's okay. You're going to have more times where you succeed. You're going to have more times where you're running your race. You're running it effectively. So stay calm, believe in the truth, and be kind to yourself in your inner voice. I want you to remember, this is the last tip that I'm going to give you, to have a servant's heart. Remember, you're not perfect, and be brave enough to know how you can improve. Don't live in the past. Don't focus on your mistakes. But where you are planted, make sure you are serving. You may be planted somewhere that you don't really love where you are. Maybe you don't love the house you're living in. Maybe you don't love the community that you're in. But wherever you're planted, bloom. And bloom by serving others right where you are. As I get ready to close our time, having a grateful heart is so important. If you have a heartbeat and breath in your lungs, then you've been given life. And today is available. Tomorrow is not promised. So having a heart that's grateful, remember the why of what you're doing. It's not always just about what it is, it's why you're doing it. I think one thing the world tries to do is the world tries to turn our blessings into burdens. You know, I might get so frustrated at my son because he's messy. I might get so frustrated with him because he left something out, or he didn't lock the door when he left home, or whatever the things are that he's doing. And I can just get so mad and complain. I can fuss at him. And I may get frustrated with the laundry and how it piles up. But I need to remember that I prayed for that kid, right? I prayed for him, and he's a blessing. He's not a burden. Yeah, I get tired of the laundry, and I get tired of seeing his smelly socks on the floor, but he is a blessing. So don't fall into the trap of letting your blessings be turned into burdens, because people are not burdens, they're blessings. Let's keep that in mind as we're trying to have this grateful heart. Life really does go by fast. I can't believe I've been married for 26 years today. Does not feel like it's been that long. And in our life, we plan and we prepare and we dream. And at 16, we maybe had baby names written out, and we look now at our lives and they're not what we thought they would be. But we need to remember that every day is a blessing, and that all we have is today. And in this day, we get to choose. We don't choose what happens to us. We don't choose how other people respond to us. We don't choose if our daughter's car is broken down on the side of the road. But what we can choose is how we respond. We can choose to take care of ourselves. We can choose to be kind to other people. We can choose to stay calm. We can choose to respond and not react. We can choose to have a grateful heart. We can choose to focus on the blessings and to be grateful and remember the things that the Lord has given us. And every day we really do have the choice to choose to be joyful, because joy is a gift from God. And joy, the best definition that I know for the word joy is this: joy is an emotional pattern of having assurance that even though life is hard and bad things happen, because of God's grace, everything really will be okay. It really will be. And we can live in that. And so I hope that you feel encouraged about the call that you have been given in healthcare to serve others and to love others and to care for others. And I hope you know it's okay that you feel overwhelmed and burnt out. It's normal. But I encourage you to make some steps. Keep your perspective the right way. Make sure that you keep your heart lined up with gratitude and having a servant's heart. I encourage you to get like a gratitude journal. I have found that to be so helpful. Just put it by your bed on your nightstand, and every night before you go to sleep, just write down 5 things that you're grateful for that happened in that particular day. If you want to keep up with anything Joy Time related, I'm on Instagram and Facebook, and I do 3 little devotionals every week and some graphics. And we have women's events, and I have an online Bible study that I do live on Sunday. And you can find out a lot of that here if you're into that thing. No worries if you're not. I just always love to connect with people. So I love having community, and I think we need each other. And so I hope today's been a blessing for you, and I appreciate the opportunity to come and share with you today. So Lisa, I'll turn it back over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Joy. We are, our chat is full of thank yous and how uplifting this has been, how refreshing the message has been today, because it's obviously this is not the norm that a lot of our folks get. And so they are saying thank you for the beautiful message and the refreshing talk that you've shared. And people have shared some comments about how burned out they've been, how much they needed this. So I will echo all of those things. This was fantastic. We all need reminders. You know, a lot of these things are things that we have heard and know, but it's nice to have the reminder. So thank you so much for everything. I don't see any questions in here, but obviously you all see the way to reach out and connect with Joy. So if that is something that you want to take down before we end today, that would be a great way to reach out to her. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. So with that, we are going to wrap. We'll give you a few minutes of your day back. Again, if you are planning to participate on tomorrow's webinar, please be sure to find that link in the email that was sent out that allowed you access today. Fill that out, go through the Zoom process again, and get the link that's specific for tomorrow's event. If you have any questions about anything, feel free to reach out. My email address, lisa@medicationeducation.org. On behalf of Guardian, I will say thank you so much for participating today. Taylor, who welcomed us today, is joining us right now, and I will give her a chance to do the Taylor, we have wrapped a few minutes early, so if you would like to speak just for a minute at the end here to see everybody off, then we can wrap for the day.
Okay, fantastic.